Z9, a thrilling combination of speed, precision, and resolution. Our first mirrorless flagship. Fast, tough, and reliable. Mind-blowing AF. Deep learning AI. 20, 30, or even a blistering 120 frames per second. The world's brightest electronic viewfinder with absolutely no blackout. 45.7 megapixels. A stacked full-frame CMOS sensor. The Z9 is capable of recording hours of exquisite 8K video in camera, and it does 4K too. The Nikon Z9 has been made to take you beyond what you thought was possible. We sent the Z9 to some of the best photographers in Europe to see just how unstoppable it is. Christian Schuller, fashion. Ronan McKenzie, creative director. Jared and Ashley Gruber, sports. Amy Shaw, automotive. Vincent Monnier, wildlife. Let's see where the Z9 took them.
I like the feeling of kind of the problem-solving nature of photography. I feel like when I pick up a camera, I feel like anywhere I go, if I look close enough and in a way try hard enough, there's always some way that you can show a scene that might just be the most mundane thing in the world and show it in a way that's interesting and something that perhaps is worth looking at tomorrow. I just like the feeling that it, in a way, is a puzzle. It really keeps me excited all the time. I would say that speed is of paramount importance to me. If we're shooting a bike race or scenes in a journalistic way, I mean, you get one try and that's it, you know? So for us, I would say speed is paramount, whether it be speed in terms of frames per second, speed in terms of autofocus, or speed just in terms of picking up a camera and it being ready to somehow interpret my brain.
Because you only get one chance.
Yeah, the idea of being able to have 45 megapixels and have super fast frames per second all in one is just like,
why choose?
I look at it and it's like, this is, if you had asked me 2 years ago what my fantasy would have been, I would have laughed and been like, oh yeah, it would have been something like 45 megapixels, 20 frames per second, super fast autofocus, maybe someday. And then all of a sudden it's right here and you actually get to touch it and you feel it and you realize that it really is just as good as you imagined, which is kind of rare.
A rider that's passing you, you may get 3 shots, and if they're passing you in sort of like a non-linear plane, then the chances of you getting them all 3 are really low, and you just pray that you get one. So with this camera, it's not a question. It's gonna be there, probably times 10 or times 20. So that's gonna be a huge difference.
In terms of yesterday, I mean, we're shooting in this desert. It's super dry and obviously dust is constant. You have these riders who are going, I bet, close to 100K an hour coming at us, and they're in the dust and you can barely even see the subject itself, and yet the autofocus is tracking it the whole way through. I mean, you can go back and look through it and it's like 100% hit rate. I can look at each of these and they are actually all in focus. I mean, again, it's kind of like a fantasy. It actually feels kind of like a magic wand in some situations. Because everyone tells you, like when you read an article online, it's like, oh, it's not the camera, it's the photographer, which is true. But as soon as you start trying to do something that's a little bit more, we'll say fast-paced, and you really actually care, I'm gonna go with the best tool that I can to do my work with, and it feels better, I mean, how many times have you ever gone to something and you've been, say like when I was in school and I was unprepared for a test. I mean, that's the worst feeling in the world. Like, if I actually really care about the pictures I'm taking, for me, like, I wanna know that I have the best thing in my hand and I have no doubts about it, because I have 1,000 other doubts about what I'm gonna do. Should I shoot here? Should I shoot that? I don't know. And it's just so nice for me and so comforting to just have something that is my kind of foundation in terms of my gear.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. In a way, a magical tool. But in the end, it's my hammer, my chisel, my everything.
A lot of people in our field use D6 or D5 for the speed, and we've always chosen the D850 because we like the creative possibilities that come from that kind of equipment. So before, you had to choose if you wanted speed or if you wanted megapixels, and now with the Z9, it's a perfect marriage.
It's just so much fun to be able to shoot basically any angle, whatever you can think of, it seems like I can shoot it. I think the creative possibilities that it allows you are amazing.
I was really surprised how well it recognized the moto or a bike or even a face. And I didn't trust that, actually, when I first started. That's something completely foreign to me. Having that as an option that you can rely on is pretty almost scary. Like, is this real? Can I really do this? Yes, you can.
Nikon Z9. Unstoppable.
Today was my first time using the Z9, and it's a step away from the D series that I normally work with, or I was used to working with before. And it's definitely, it feels different. It feels like a more powerful machine in terms of what it can do. And so that offered me other options in terms of what I could do with it. It's big. It's big in the sense that it can do a lot, and it has a lot of features and a lot of technicalities, but in a sense it's still fairly simple to use, which I enjoyed. But it still has the same lightish feeling to it that still feels very manageable to use. Yeah, today I was working with the continuous AF mode, which I've never worked with before. And it was amazing because even when Nilly, my talent, turned her back to the camera, when she came back into frame, or when her face came back in frame, the camera automatically picked it up. And especially as she's doing really fast movements and going in and out of frame, having that to continually pick up on the eye specifically was, I wouldn't really be able to do it manually, I don't think. So for the camera to be able to do that and track the movement was really cool. Also when I was in the low light scene and she's spinning around and going around, I'm moving around her, for me to just be able to focus on the framing and sort of the picture that I want to capture, and the camera to be able to make sure that that's in focus for me, and specifically her eyes are in focus, which is what I was aiming for. It's just one less thing that I need to worry about and think about, which is great. Usually I just use a viewfinder on a camera, but today I was switching between the electronic viewfinder and the tilt screen. And that was really practical for working with a lot of different camera angles. And I think that made for a much more efficient shooting process. And I probably captured better footage and more controlled angles because I was in a comfortable position while holding the camera. So I think that was great. I like to use a range of lenses. I also use a 105 to shoot macro, which I find has just such a beautiful quality to it, and it also gets me to the right place, the right crop that I want, and I really like that. But because I like my work to be quite dynamic, I enjoy using different lenses for different things and different purposes. I really like the zoom lenses, especially with the vibration reduction. I think I'm able to do everything I need to do with less lenses, essentially. I think the 24-70 is probably my favorite. The fact that the Z9 has 10-bit inside the camera means the capabilities of what I can do with skin color and complexion are so vast in my practice. I think within my work, with using macro lenses, I'm just trying to get more and more detail out of skin, out of tonality, out of texture. How much story I can tell through one color, beige or black or brown. Having that 10-bit inside and being able to see that, work with that, use that, makes my practice so much bigger than I ever thought was possible. Slow motion, quite similar in my mind. It's kind of like macro, where when I shoot macro, I'm forcing the viewer's eye to look at something very specific. And I feel like with slow motion, it's somewhat doing the same because I slow it down so much that the viewer only can really look at what I'm looking at, and it has to focus on it for that amount of time. So I'm always really interested, especially with movement, with the balance of speed and using that to guide a viewer's experience through a piece of moving image. So especially today with Nilly, the martial artist, some of the movements are so fast-paced, and being able to just slow that down in such beautiful quality, have her eyes in focus, have different parts of her body moving through the frame really slowly so the viewer can really take that experience in, and I, viewing it, can take that experience in. It's really, really interesting, and I think it's something that will never stop interesting me, I think, and especially when it's to do with the body and the way the body moves. I guess in real time, things happen so quickly that it's really nice sometimes to just slow it down and be able to fully take in the depth and the breadth of what the body can do. I liked it.
Nikon Z9. Unstoppable.
I like all type of photography, but for me, of course, I took wildlife photography, yeah, and I want to share my feeling that I have in the field, and it's for that I'm a photographer. My first camera, it was a FE2, yeah, it was in 1988, long time ago. So I took many pictures with film, argentique, ouais. And I switched in digital in 2004, something like this, yeah. All the time, yeah, I photograph with Nikon. We have a whole story, yeah, together. I worked a lot with the F5 before digital, and after the D5, yeah. I use a lot in Arctic, in Tibet, yeah. I just need the best tools because I spend many times in the field outside, and to prepare my hide, and the picture is like the finality, and for that I need to have a very strong camera and very efficient when I want to stop the reality and to share it. For me, the camera has to be reliable, fast, high megapixel, a lot of frames per second, and strong for video and photo. So I appreciate so much that, yeah, there are not a huge difference between the D5 and D6 with this one, the new one. You have the same block, and the huge difference is, of course, the viewer is different between optic and now numeric, but the quality is perfect because it looks like almost optic visor, optic viewfinder. You don't have a blackout, so you have nothing between you and your subject, you and the animals. Because very often I don't like it to have something like a camera or something like a mirror just to make a fence between you and your subject. Here now you have nothing. You have no blackout. It's just perfect. No, I was very impressed with the very fast birds like the swallows, because they fly like in zigzag and very fast, so not so bad. I like something, oh, you said that in English, concret, something that you can touch, and for that I like the books. It's like an object, like a subject very important for me, because books can change the life of somebody. And photography, it's the tool that I choose a long time ago for that, just to share. The quality it's important, of course, because it's difficult with my English. Yeah. En français, ce sera plus facile d'expliquer tout ça. La résolution, c'est extrêmement important, surtout qu'on fait des prints qui sont de grand format pour des galeries. Donc, il y a une exigence quant à la qualité du format. Et désormais, plus on est grand, et mieux c'est. Et je m'autorise de cropper un peu l'image, de recadrer. Et donc oui, que ce soit pour des doubles pages ou des très grands formats en exposition, la résolution est extrêmement importante. Tout comme aussi les high ISO, c'est-à-dire les hauts ISO qui sont aussi pour la photographie d'une manière indispensable. Parce que j'adore photographier au moment crépusculaire, et c'est là qu'il se passe énormément de choses. Et donc je m'autorise parfois à monter à 50 000, 100 000 ISO, quoi. Donc oui, il me faut une bonne résolution. Mais c'est toujours le compromis, où là on aura peut-être une différence, ce compromis entre cette haute résolution et puis ces hauts ISO. La rapidité de l'autofocus, la cadence qui est rapide, le silence, c'est-à-dire aucun bruit, pas de miroir qui vient obstruer la vision. C'est génial.
Nikon Z9. Unstoppable.
way that I shoot is in a very journalistic fashion, and I love to try and capture the moment as honestly as I can and to the most romantic version of that situation. I think the way that I like to shoot myself is taking inspiration from the past more than anything. And maybe it's because of my own love for classic cars, but seeing some of these old racing photographs where these people didn't have the chance to set up any lighting or to really think about the shot too much. I love that spontaneity that you get, and I really try to photograph my own subjects in a very similar way, very honestly and very natural lighting, whatever the camera can do to help me out. And that's it really. It's quite an honest relationship, I suppose, between me and the camera and the work that I produce. The moment that I got the Z9 in my hands for the first time, it was surprising how normal it felt, but at the same time I thought, this is something that I've definitely not held before, obviously. But it was lovely to know that it still made sense to me. It wasn't like I was having to learn my tool all over again, which can sometimes be the case, and that was really comforting to know that I could just pick this camera up and within 10 minutes I was shooting cars and thinking, okay, this makes sense. Having something that is practically my two cameras, the D6 and the D850 in one, is going to be something that's quite game-changing, I think, for my own work process. The Z9 will definitely be able to give me more chances to get the shot that I need. And sometimes when I might take 20 shots to be able to get that one shot that I'm desperate to try and capture, if I keep either misfocusing or miscomposing, I think the Z9 is going to be able to eliminate a lot of that wasted time. So I can keep the space on my memory card to be able to shoot more or give me time to capture the next thing that's going on. And that alone, I think, will increase just those shots that I think, I got the shot, I nailed it. It's going to create a lot more of those moments. It's strange. It feels like I've known this camera for a long time, but at the same time, being able to do things like have the car focusing. I've not had to worry when my arm is stretched out of the side of a car trying to guess the shot that I'm trying to capture. I have to have a lot of trust in the gear, and with Nikon I know that I can go to any situation, any terrain, any weather and be able to get the images that I need to get. With the screen that can flip out, I can see what I'm trying to accomplish, and it makes my job a lot easier, and that's something I didn't quite expect to be able to do so easily and so enjoyably. It's so important for me to think about where my photographs go after they've been in the magazine or in the commercial shoots. So they end up on people's walls quite a lot. Not on a little screen in front of them, but blown up quite big on their wall, and they may have that on their wall for years to come. I need to make sure that the images that can be printed are pin-sharp quality. People can physically get close up to that picture and feel like they were there and read everything they need to out of that picture every time they look at it. I'm really excited to see how the Z9 is going to basically become my extra pair of eyes as such, not something that necessarily just captures what I see, but also sees more. And that will allow me to get a lot of shots that I would probably have missed in the past, or even attempt shots that, the more I begin to use the Z9 and trust it and think, okay, no, I can capture this, that and the other, which so far I've definitely had experience in over the last couple of days. And knowing that I've got that technology to help me get those moments that I probably would have missed, I think that's going to open up a lot more shots that I'm going to be really, really happy with in the future.
Nikon Z9. Unstoppable.
if you say the camera is to me like a tool, like a hammer, yeah, but then like a very sexy hammer. You use a hammer when you have to throw in a nail, or how you call that in English. But the good thing is, as a photographer, because it's a very sensual work, and it is the interaction with the model, it's very sensual work, and you need a tool which help you doing that. Because suddenly I had an autofocus which could go from one corner to the other corner, and it could follow the head all the time. So I held my framing, I could just concentrate on that, and whatever the girl did, didn't matter because the focus was following. You have the feeling somebody really nailed the focus on the face. Whatever the person is doing, the focus is already there. Yeah, that's a good point with this, when I think about the speed of his camera. And I was like, when you guys showed me the speed of the camera, I thought you're joking. I thought there's a little, you have a recording just of a sound and there's nothing happening. And then let's look through it. And so even the autofocus was following. Normally, I definitely don't use 20 frames per second. I'm just shooting like clock, so like that. But there are moments, for example, you let the girl jump or something like that, and you have a dress, it tries to fly, wind blows, blah, blah, blah. Before, the restriction has been how fast was the flash. Now I changed completely into LEDs because I love having available lighting whenever it's possible. And the good thing with the available lighting is now the limitation is your camera. Before, it was like 4 frames per second, not bad, but not really a lot when you really look for the perfect moment. So 20 frames, oh my God, now it's nearly film. So you have choice now. I mean, the image quality of Z9 is exceptional, especially by having the relation in mind how fast the camera is, because it's a high-end sports photographer camera. But now suddenly you have the same kind of quality like you have in a classical studio camera. Now you have both worlds in one, which is wow. It's a big wow. So that is something which is completely fascinating me. But you have to understand, I am not into what is the best possible digital quality. I'm more into what is the real naked raw file. How good is that? So we deactivate everything in the camera, like noise reduction, sharpening, all these tools to help me, any lens corrections, everything is off. Pure data goes in the computer. And that's what I have a look at. And this is something which now since a couple of years I love Nikon for. And I'm very happy that Nikon kept this quality with the Z9 and now brought the speed on top. But absolutely, I do repeat again, for me the major thing is the image quality. Yeah, I think that is also the point with the Z9. That's a big point that all these big elements are coming together. Speed, high ISO, image quality, and all in one camera. I mean, man, what do you want more?
Nikon Z9. Unstoppable. Whatever you throw at it, the Nikon Z9 can handle it. For more than 100 years, we've been crafting cutting-edge photographic tools for creative professionals. Game-changing cameras, game-changing images. Let nothing stand in your way. The Nikon Z9.